Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Samira Tilley, Industry Marketing Manager at Autodesk. In today's webinar, we will look at the integration between Assemble Systems and BIM 360. Now let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Tim Kelly, Senior Product Manager at Assemble. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Samira. We'll go ahead and start off with a quick introduction going through our agenda. In that, we're going to do some brief intros of myself, and today I also have Brandon and Brent with me. Followed by brief introductions of both Assemble and BIM 360, what we do, who we serve, ultimately how we, with the acquisition of Assemble into Autodesk, how we make both of these products better, and step through then this first phase of our integration between the two. We're going to dive into document linking and issue service, and then ultimately talk through some key benefits, some key workflows, and then we'll dive into a brief look and do a demo of those workflows. We have a short session today, so we'll get some Q&A going, but I don't know how deep we'll get into that Q&A. So if you guys do have questions, make sure to drop them in the panel so that if we don't get to them today, we'll be able to follow up after the presentation. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself really quick first. As Samira mentioned, I'm a Senior Product Manager at Autodesk. I'm in the pre-construction group, and ultimately I'm passionate about solving real-world problems for our Assemble user base and for ultimately the pre-construction workflows. I come from a general contractor, so I've certainly had my fair share of facepalm moments when we don't have technology in place, and ultimately I love interacting with our customer base and how we can help you guys move things forward in construction. Brent, quick intro of yourself.
Sure thing. Thanks, Tim. So, yeah, Brent Ramos, I'm the Director of Sales here at Assemble, a part of the Autodesk Construction Solution team. And my background is in the specialty subcontractor space. I spent about 10 years there, starting in the field, and eventually moved into the office where I was focused on estimating and project management. For the past 7 years, I've been working in the Autodesk community and here at Assemble to work with contractors to understand and adopt technology to improve how they digitize their construction workflows, specifically around how they manage quantities from pre-construction and estimating to change how they win projects and plan all the way through the execution phase and how you can track those quantities out in the field.
My name is Brandon LaCourcier. I'm a Senior Manager with Autodesk AEC Technical Sales Division. I started at Autodesk 8 years ago as a construction SME. And prior to joining the group, I actually served several different organizations as everything from a superintendent to an estimator, really getting a full scope of how construction was evolving early in the development of the software days for our business. I was fortunate enough to work through the addition of Bella long ago, BIM 360 Field. Really excited to have the Assemble team joining us now, and looking forward to seeing this come together here.
Awesome. Now that you guys have learned a little about us, let's jump into our solution. So I'll give a quick overview of Assemble, and ultimately I want to step through, our solution is a cloud-based offering, so it's easy access, SAS Model, where you log in through a web browser and you get access to all of your model-based information. We actually have key concepts around adding intelligence to that design content, specifically for construction workflows, and ultimately querying against that so that you get the right content at the right time. As that previous slide stated, quantities are the center of what we do and are useful throughout all different aspects of project management, project development. And we want to make it really broadly accessible and easy to share. So if I'm organizing content and creating a package of information, I can easily give Brent access to that information without him needing to go recreate any of that context or that packaging. So that's really Assemble in a nutshell. And if I kind of go into why was the acquisition important? Why did Autodesk look at Assemble and say this is something we want as part of the portfolio to make things better overall? We're object-centric, and we take that design content and we go through our, as I mentioned before, our conditioning process. So we're adding real-world construction breakdown, classifications, and context so that we can search through the system for particular components. We can add other metadata to that and create valuable reporting. We can track things as they're installed and give direct feedback across the team. As I mentioned, it's easy to share that kind of information out. At the end of the day, it's a contractor's tool. I know a lot of those on the line are familiar with using design models, design content, but that doesn't give you your ability to add the right information from a contractor's perspective. So that's the model conditioning aspect, and that's everything on the right side there and how we break things down. Those are the workflows that are important to us. So that's the symbol. Why don't you go ahead and jump in and give a little overview of BIM 360?
Big piece we want to start with is giving everyone an understanding of what Autodesk's approach to the construction space, but more importantly, the project environment and how we're driving collaboration and communication across all of our different disciplines. The backbone of our focus and our game plan is to introduce more predictable outcomes into the job site. And the best way that we can do that is by first digitizing all aspects of it. And that's not just as simple as adding features and functionalities. We want those integrations between different products, but as communication occurs between different solutions, and also, most importantly, different people in the field, in the office, even working and collaborating with owners and designers as decisions are being made, we want all of that information to drive predictable insights into the projects. Now, the challenge that we've always had is how do we pull all of this great data into one unified platform? And that's really been our focus. How do we pull these platforms together? And we've really taken an approach that's threefold. And as we look at this next slide, what you're going to see is that we've layered everything on top of an open API platform called Forge. And Forge really serves as the backbone for all things BIM 360, and more importantly, the data structure here at Autodesk. Now, when we look at how Forge operates and how it's structured, it provides access to third-party applications so that they can integrate directly into some of the solutions that you know and probably use on a regular basis, like Revit, Navisworks, and even AutoCAD and Civil 3D. All of that information also compounds and collaborates with our BIM 360 modules, which we'll talk about in just a second. As all of these interactions are occurring between third-party applications, our own homegrown tools, and also the core products that make up a lot of our portfolio, we're gaining analytics and insights into how the teams are working on different projects. We're also gaining insights into how information is being shared, what opportunities we have for improvement, and all of that's layered into each one of the different phases, whether it's design, pre-con, field execution, and obviously into owner operations. Now, the backbone of this is our document management platform. And when we look at our document management tool, what we're looking at is a series of different applications and functionalities. This workflow comprises a lot of different features and functionalities. For us, that includes everything from document control, publishing documentation, doing revisions and markups, and also looking at documents in both 2D and 3D views. This allows us to really deliver a complete connected solution to manage all of our 2D plans and 3D models in one cohesive location, one simplified location. The next little piece that we have that we're going to talk about is our design collaboration. So it is important, obviously, that we have a singular document management platform, but we also want to make sure it's easy for customers to get information from products like Revit and AutoCAD into a document viewer, a really simplified way of viewing this. So our design collaboration workflows take that just a step further. Using our design collaboration tools, we can actually live link and real-time share documents directly from products like Revit to ensure that information is shared at the times that it's most important. To take that even a step further, we allow you to actually generate design packages. This allows you to create documents and store them in a way that was purpose-built for the architects and engineers, while also giving general contractors access to progressions as those sets evolve, so that we're not just doing sheet comparison, we're doing set comparison and understanding where critical impacts on a project may affect long-term development. This also allows us to do simplified change visualization and ensure that we understand the impact of design changes as they occur throughout a project. We take that a hair further by actually evolving our workflows-based approach around coordination. So on the next piece, what you're going to see is that we have that ability to then take the model that's been uploaded and using our Glue platform, instantly run clash reports, do model navigation, work with our trades to not just see where challenges might exist, but come up with coordinated solutions that address them. We also can do constructability reviews and use information that's stored directly in tools like Navisworks so that we don't have to manage two different data sets. We can save a model in the cloud, instantly view it inside of Navisworks, do rules-based clash reports while going back to our Glue platform in the cloud to interact with people on individual line items and components that need to be addressed. Now, once all of this design communication, collaboration, and data has been evolved, we move into our project management workflows. And this is really the opportunity to take all the great documentation and models that have been generated and make them actionable. Inside this module, we have the ability to work through submittal workflows, develop RFI reports. We also can go through safety modules, quality control, and just recently released our new cost control modules, really allowing users to take advantage of every piece of data that they've built throughout the process and deliver a cohesive model set. Now I'm really excited to hand this off so you guys can see how Assemble plays a role in building out the totality of what Forge and BIM 360 are bringing to the construction space.
Great overview. So, you know, that I said it before, and given the context here, that title says Assemble and BIM 360 are better together. There were so many things as we were working independently that I could see our roadmap, including capability that Brandon just went through that all throughout BIM 360, and vice versa. And I know in conversations that we were having that BIM 360 was looking at that object-centric approach and how you can use the model to organize content that you're sharing across estimators, superintendents, schedulers, project managers, and have that as your common data environment. That be the host of information and how you organize and collaborate and dive into that information. So these are all users of that content, and they're contributors, they're readers of information. And just really quick before we dive into the key integration points, for those that aren't familiar with Assemble, I'm going to just quickly share a quick screenshot. Above and beyond the model-based properties, we have this notion of adding additional data. We call them Assemble properties, and you can go in and create grouping and organization of that information, whether it be specific about the location or issues that you, or comments rather, that you have on components. If it's specific to estimating and cost coding or bid package information or schedule or installation information, we're layering that information on top of the existing data and allow you to query and organize your content based on that. What that looks like inside a particular component, I've got some walls selected here, and I can see the additional information that my team has included and leveraged. And then in terms of that sharing that I mentioned before and how we simplify that, I'm just going to step into the concept or notion of views. You can organize these views, and they're dynamic. They're based on the information that's included or that they're layered on top of. So as things change or adjusted in those properties, your views are dynamically associated to that. So I can create that view and give access to Brent, and he can see things as it's installed or as it's progressing through the the classification and organization. So I just wanted to give a little more context of how we're organizing all of these workflows and data input around the model objects. Brandon, anything to add on this?
Yeah, Tim, I think to your earlier point about conditioning and then accessing the information, if you look at these roles, we're all pulling from the same data set. There's a lot of powerful data inside the building model and inside the data that's being created in BIM 360. But me as a unique role within the construction process, I've got different needs for different portions of that information. Assemble's really giving us through the appending of additional data, the grouping, sorting, filtering functionality, and then creating those specific views that you just showed. It gives me the opportunity in any role to engage this information and manage the data from my unique perspective. And that's the feedback we're getting from each one of these roles in our customer base today. And it does cut through a lot of the wading through digitized data and undigitized data and getting straight to what you need from a model.
Absolutely. We're about midway through, a little bit more than that. So let's go ahead and dive into the integration point. So I said it up front, but this is a phase one. We're going to have a lot of others coming down the pipe of how we're tying together the Assemble product with BIM 360. And that started with wanting to extend our information. So I talked about how we can add in data. Brent just talked about what those workflows are. But we know that project files, documents are key to workflows in construction. And we want to use that object-centric approach to how we organize that content. So in addition to the information that I'm adding, I can layer in project files as well. Really what that is extending the data you're already working with to that file structure and giving it a unique or flexible organization, leveraging the I in BIM. If you guys have heard us talk in previous webinars through Assemble, we want to enhance that I in BIM and ultimately give access to the team, as they're diving into that content, as they're diving into particular components. They don't only see the metadata there that's associated, but they have access to project submittals or cut sheets, photos, anything that you want to associate with that object. You're leveraging that organization structure. Ultimately, as you bring that information in and it's organized around that common data structure, then you're improving your collaboration across the team. With this, I'm not going to dive into the particular bullet points here, but I do want to mention that we all know that change happens and iterations of documents occur. We're attached to this through BIM 360, leveraging that powerful version control there that we're giving access to the most current version, and secondarily, we're giving access to previous versions if needed. So we're creating that ability to have a link created and then live with the most current document that's been added to your BIM 360 project, file repository. Guys, anything on this? Brent, anything to add on document linking from your perspective?
Other than the fact that this brings a huge ability for our users on the Assemble side, just to engage that BIM 360 data as it's associated directly to the quantities that are impacted. That's been the biggest request from our users, and just to understand how that link is happening and how the cost or schedule impact of those document updates is rolling down to the quantities.
So within BIM 360, we have a common issues service. That allows your team to aggregate issues across all of the various workflows Brandon talked about earlier. You're using one consolidated or federated system to manage that communication. With Assemble, we've had this notion of wanting to incorporate communication in our product to a point our users would take information out and share by email. That was really the collaboration that happened around Assemble previously in terms of I want to have a conversation with other team members and resolve something. That said, with the issue service here, I can link directly to objects in the model. I can link directly to components in my 2D sheet and create snapshots. And I say snapshots, but those are live links back to that particular point, camera position, and sectioning, and whatever you have included in your view. We have that live back into that 2D or 3D view from that issues panel. So now in our product, we have the ability to directly have a conversation, assign things, give a ball in court to a different team member, have them respond. So that workflow is around whether it be design review or value engineering or quantity takeoff, any of those things that you're navigating through and understanding the scope and digging through the model content. You can now raise flags on things and create those issues that are focused on that collaboration across your team. So that's kind of the overview, and same here. Brent, anything you want to jump in on?
Other than if you're an estimator and you need to communicate with an architect, our customers have been doing that through Assemble as a way of communicating around the model for years. But this adds structure and workflow to the process. Brandon, you could probably speak a little bit more to the workflow that this brings.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's so awesome about this adaptation and the way that these two workflows are going to work together is that when you start thinking about design options and the challenges that I think many of our users are dealing with, is that design options aren't just about aesthetics, right? Design options are impacted by cost, availability, lead times. There's a lot of different factors that play into why or how you would proceed. And having the ability to pull this data in from Assemble and be able to view the cost impact in addition to the design aesthetics, it's just something our customers have always needed, and it's clear that this is going to offer that flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just to key in on what Brent said, we've had this notion of having the communication in Assemble, but this really adds the right structure. That's fantastic. So that said, just a few more minutes to go, and so I'm going to go ahead and jump into a live demo. So I'm going to start on the landing page in Assemble. These are some of the views that I mentioned before. And the idea here to connect the two is I can actually go in and link to a BIM 360 project. I can specifically point to which project I want to link that to. And now I've made a connection between an Assemble project and a BIM 360 project. As I make that connection, let's go ahead and jump into a view where I have a component selected. I can see in my model I've got a piece of drywall, a wall selected, and I want to associate a document to that. I now have on my left bar, I have this project files. So I am looking at my project files from BIM 360, and I can go through my repository and select the document and ultimately associate that with a specific component or mini component. So in this case, I want to go into some maybe specification information, make a connection to that information. Select a particular document, and now I've got an object selected in the model, a document selected, and I'm going to create that link. You now have access now over on the right side. We have what documents do you have linked? So on the left side, it's a broader, what is the file repository across your entire project? On the right side, we've got what are the documents that are linked. And ultimately, as you get into that, you can see the various components that they're linked to. You can go find those components in the model, and you can view the various versions and download this document. Additionally, within the viewers, both in 2D and 3D, you can actually choose to show the visual representation of document links within that panel directly. Within our panel here, I've got, again, a 3D view open and a 2D view looking at the same context. I want to go ahead and create an issue on this. I'm going to open up my issues panel, and I'm going to go ahead and add a new issue. So I can see on my project I have a couple of other issues, and I'm going to jump into those in just a second here. I'm going to create a new issue. And within this, I can just call this potential water issue. Give it a description and assign it to someone. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to Eddie. And with this, I can actually make an attachment from either my 3D or my 2D component here. And within these, I can pin things or annotate. And in this case, I can, in 2D, draw and add a text value. And we're going to go ahead and attach that 2D snapshot. And you're going to see in both of these, I have the selection created, I have that, and I'm going to save it. Now this is going to create an issue within that BIM 360 repository. Again, that's project-wide, that's across all of the components through BIM 360. Let's go ahead and look at a different issue, and you can kind of quickly how we would navigate to those components, both in 2D and 3D. So Syed had created an issue previously. Now I'm going to go review this thing, and I can just quickly select that information. It's going to take me right to what was created with the annotations, same in 3D. Not only can I do this within the context of being an Assemble, but if someone has created an issue and it now shows up in BIM 360, I actually have not only the information as snapshots here, but I can live link from my BIM 360 repository of issues back into that model view in Assemble. So in same issue I've previously navigated from, I can jump straight into that issue, and it's going to take me right to that particular viewpoint that I've just selected. The last point I want to make sure that I point to, and I didn't do this at the start because I didn't want to log out and disconnect every tab I have open, but with this, we now have single sign-on with Autodesk ID. As a user, you can either continue to use your Assemble credentials, and once you get into the project, you can log in with your BIM 360 credentials, or at the front end of diving into integrating these two things, you have the option of using single sign-on with your Autodesk account. All right, let's go ahead and jump back into Q&A. I know we're right at time, but Samira, do we have any questions?
We actually have quite a few questions coming in, so if we do not get to your question because we only have a few minutes left, we will reach out to you after the webinar. One of the things that I'm seeing most people are actually asking about that is how can they test it? Is it available for them to test right now?
Hey, Brent, why don't you jump on this?
Samira, I can answer this one. Yeah, absolutely. We can have you test the Assemble portion through, we have a free 21-day evaluation period. Testing the integration would also require a BIM 360 docs access and to create the connection between the two projects. But I believe, Brandon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there is a means of testing that as well.
Yep, correct.
Perfect. Now we do have a few questions in about how is user management handled. So if Tim, if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, really quickly, just to say, BIM 360 has a really robust permissioning system, and we're leveraging that. So if you have access to docs or your access is restricted to specific project files, we're replicating that in Assemble. So through those credentials, we're doing a check on what you do have access to. Same goes for issues. If you have access to be a part of that project name list. So we're leveraging the BIM 360 robust permission system.
Tim, I do see a few questions in there regarding version control. One of the questions is, what if the cut sheet that I attached to Assemble gets updated? Do I have to reattach it?
Yeah, no, as I mentioned before, no, that link is created with the document, and we'll point to the most current version or the version selected as the primary.
Perfect. I know we are out of time, so I do want to allow each of you to actually add any final thoughts. And if we, like I said, if we did not get to your question, we will reach out to you after the webinar to make sure all your questions are addressed. Tim, Brent, Brendan, anything you guys would like to end on?
Yeah, I'll start. And I'll just say I'm excited that we've made these initial connection points. I'm really excited to start the next phase of things as you guys, as customers, start interacting with this and providing real life feedback. I'm really excited about where this is headed.
Brent?
Yeah, Tim, I'll just add to that. So many of our workflows that our customers have come up with have really been developed out in our customer base as best practices. This functionality we believe is really exciting, but we're more excited to see what our customers and the world at large does with this functionality to improve the digitization process. So if you're interested in testing, then please let us know in the exit survey or reach out directly to the Assemble team and the Autodesk BIM 360 team.
I think to that point, the opportunity that we have when you look at something like the issues component and how viewpoints and Navisworks could be sort of really accelerated from a production standpoint, I'm really ecstatic to see what our customers do with this new functionality. It's definitely going to be a time saver.
Thank you so much for attending today's session. We truly appreciate you spending some time getting to know more about Assemble and BIM 360.